Grunge music, Starbucks, Microsoft. These are all things that the state of Washington gave us, and there are plenty of reasons to like the state. Some people like it so much that they decide to move there, but it's not for everyone, so why don't we take a look at 8 reasons why someone shouldn't move to the Evergreen State. Number 8. Weather. This one depends on which side of the state you choose to live in. Washington is a divided state, geographically speaking. They have the Cascade Mountains running through the center of the state, so there are actually 2 different climates. On the eastern side, you have communities like Spokane, where you can expect a warm summer, humid continental climate, meaning that they experience short spring and fall seasons, mild summers with the average daily temperature in July at only 71 degrees, and winters that are cold and cloudy with an average of 44 inches of snowfall each year. On the western side of the state, where Tacoma and Seattle are located, the weather is quite a bit different. Seattle has what is sometimes called a modified Mediterranean climate. This means that they have moderate weather most of the time. Summer temperatures rarely go over 80 degrees, and winters are usually cool and rainy instead of snowy. Washington is actually the 5th rainiest state in the nation, so that means the sunny days are sporadic at best. They average 152 sunny days per year, with only 52 days of full sun, which makes Washington the cloudiest state in the U.S. They also have a surprisingly high amount of humidity. One list has Seattle as the 38th most humid city in the U.S., thanks to their average annual relative humidity at 70%. Not everyone can deal with the lack of sunshine and the high humidity, so it's something to keep in mind if you think you might want to move to the area. Number 7. Volcanoes. Did you know that there are 12 U.S. states that have active volcanoes? Washington State has the 4th largest number of active volcanoes in the country. 5 are listed as a high or very high threat potential, according to the Washington State Department of Natural Resources. They include Mount St. Helens, which famously erupted in 1980, and caused 57 fatalities and destroyed 47 bridges, 250 homes, 185 miles of highway, and 15 miles of railway, and they're expecting another eruption from it sometime in the near future. The other volcanoes are Mount Baker, Mount Rainier, Glacier Peak, and Mount Adams. Number 6. Earthquakes. Continuing with natural disasters, did you know that Washington sits on several fault lines? Earthquakes happen all the time in the state. In just the past year, they have averaged more than 1 earthquake each day across the state. While most of them are too small to be felt or cause damage, that could change. The Cascadia subduction zone sits off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle Fault runs east to west just south of downtown Seattle, and the South Whidbey Island Fault runs from northwest to southeast of the southern tip of the island. So it's only a matter of time before a big one strikes from one of those fault lines. Scientists say that any of the quakes could reach a magnitude as high as 7 to over 9. Number 5. Traffic. Every year, WalletHub releases a study where they crunch data to find out which states are the worst for drivers. For 2022, Washington was ranked the 5th worst. There were a few different reasons for that, with some of the data coming from a report by an organization called TRIP, which is a national transportation research nonprofit. Washington was found to have the 10th most congested urban interstates in the country, for one thing. Those interstates were also found to be in the 12th poorest condition, and the state had the 9th highest daily interstate travel per lane mile. The report also found that Washington ranked in 9th place for having interstate bridges that were poor or structurally deficient, so basically poor road quality in general is an issue. According to MoneyWise, only 78% of Washington's drivers are insured, making it one of the lowest insured rates out of the country. They also have 4.84 DUI arrests for every 1,000 drivers, which makes the roads less safe. If avoiding traffic accidents is something you're looking for, there are better states for that. Number 4. Crime. Washington isn't so bad when compared to other states in certain categories, but then there are others that make you question what's going on there. For example, Washington State has the 10th lowest incarceration rate and the 12th lowest firearm-related fatality rate. Yet, they also have the 4th highest car theft rate in the country, after Florida, Texas, and California. On average, they have 30,500 vehicles reported stolen each year. I guess that makes sense in a way. Some of the cities in Washington have a rather large homeless population, so a car could double as a shelter. But they also have the 9th highest rate of motorcycle thefts, with 1,700 coming up missing annually. If you own a Honda motorcycle, you should really keep an eye on it, because for some reason, that make is stolen more often than the others. Seattle alone reported 386 motorcycle thefts in 2020. So, Washington residents, why are so many motorcycles being stolen? If you know, drop a comment, because that statistic for a place that doesn't get much sunlight seems weird to me. Number 3. High cost of living. Washington isn't the most expensive state to live in, but it's also certainly not one of the cheapest either. Different publications rank the states in different orders, but they all agree that Washington is in the top 15 most expensive states to reside. According to the Missouri Economic Research and Information Center, Washington is ranked the 13th most expensive state to live in, with a cost of living index of 113.9. They found that this was due to housing costs being 25% above the national average and healthcare costs 20.5% above the national average. The Census Bureau has the average home value for Washington State at $366,800. However, actual selling prices are well above that in some of the state's markets, particularly in Seattle, where the cheapest housing option on the current market is a houseboat for $280,000. If you prefer to live on land, the fixer-uppers are running between $395,000 and $425,000, and the turnkey homes are $450,000 to $30 million. That's probably why 55% of the people in that city rent. However, if you have to rent, that's not exactly cheap either. Zillow shows the median rent that is currently being asked in the state is $2,150. Other things cost more in the Evergreen State as well. Gasoline, for example, tends to be the highest in the western states. According to AAA, the current average for a gallon of regular gas is $5.17. Groceries also cost more. A recent study published by Move.org ranked Washington as the 10th most expensive state to purchase groceries. If you're trying to stick to a budget, Washington might not be the place for you. Number 2. Homelessness. Speaking of housing, Washington State has the 5th largest number of people experiencing homelessness out of the country at 22,923, according to the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. That includes 2,116 family households, 1,607 veterans, and 1,777 unaccompanied young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. Contributing to the homelessness situation is rising housing costs. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development considers anyone spending more than 30% of their income on housing as being cost-burdened. They took a look at rent prices across the country and found that Washington requires the 8th highest income to afford rent. CNBC found that the annual income needed to afford a one-bedroom rental in Washington is $43,501. Washington does have the highest minimum wage out of the states at $14.49, so that's something, but it's still not enough. If you work one full-time minimum wage job with the normal 2,080 hours per year, that's an annual income of $30,139.20. There would definitely be a cost burden for that person in trying to rent a space for themselves, let alone if they had a family to support. Number 1. Taxes. Washington doesn't assess an individual or business income tax, so there's that, but they do come up with other methods to fund social programs, infrastructure, and other things. If you are fortunate enough to have an income high enough to support a crazy high mortgage like those found in Washington, the real estate taxes are right in the middle compared to other states. They're ranked 29th with an effective tax rate of 0.98%, so that's not too bad, but the other types of taxes get you. TaxFoundation.org says that Washington has the 4th highest sales tax with a combined state and local rate of 9.29%. That includes a 6.5% tax on motor vehicles. However, groceries and prescription drugs are exempt. Washington also has one of the highest gas taxes in the country. The American Petroleum Institute shows the state as having a 49.4-cent state excise tax. They also have various so-called sin taxes, including $3.03 per pack of cigarettes, $14.27 per gallon of liquor, 87 cents per gallon of wine, 26 cents per gallon of beer. One of the newest moneymakers for the state is the legalization of marijuana, upon which they charge a 37% excise tax. Depending on your lifestyle, these may be things to consider. If you happen to be lucky enough to be rich, Washington also imposes estate and inheritance taxes for estates over $2.193 million. I wish I were lucky enough to have that kind of problem. Maybe someday. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Or maybe watch another video. I have a bunch. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the current field.